name's Will, and welcome to the Distorted Transmission for today. I'm talking to two guys from Blenheim in a band called Big Scout. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Great, thank you.
Can you guys introduce yourselves, please, for the audience?
I'm Greg. I play guitar and sing in Big Scout.
My name's Matt, and I play the drums. And there's another guy in Big Scout called Jim, who is the bass player and sort of resident oddball.
Yeah, he's got COVID at the moment. Bless him.
Brief history. I think you guys started around, well, judging by your releases, I guess around 2015, but I could be wrong.
Sounds about right. We'd been farting about off and on for about a year before that as Big Scout. We were in a band prior to that with a couple of other guys and sort of just did its thing. But yeah, we started Big Scout proper probably a year before that release. Started writing, playing a few shows, and then recorded Negative Space at Jim's house with a mate who was a bit of a home recording wizard. And out came Negative Space, and that was sort of the first step.
Yeah.
The thing is, the band's been around for that long, but I took a stint overseas. I think not long after that came out, the first EP. And I was gone for about 3 years and nothing really happened. So yeah, we have been around for that long, but I think we really felt like we began to find our own feet as a band and kind of write together and start to find our own sound was, I guess, 2019.
Prior to that, it sounded a bit like, I want to say like Punk by Numbers. That's probably a bit dismissive. But I don't know, it just felt like you'd heard it before,
right?
I guess. And we wanted to try and freshen things up for ourselves more than anything. We were each getting more confident with what we were playing.
Yeah, and we also didn't know each other super well when we started. And I think, time goes on and you get to know each other better and you start to feel comfortable challenging someone about their ideas. So, there's actually quite a lot of that in this band, which maybe didn't happen as much on the first couple.
Yeah, on Negative Space, it was more like, let's just make something.
Speaking of Negative Space, the one thing that did impress me was that, as you say, you were founded around 2015. It was the sort of constant trickle of releases, even though they weren't large releases, they were still sort of, I guess, frequent. I mean, let's see, you had Negative Space, which was a 7-track in 2016. You had Small Doubts, which was a 2-track in 2017. 3 tracks on 2 releases in 2018. And you had 3 2-tracks in 2020 and a single in 2021 called Mr. Slice. And now here you are in 2022, about to release a proper full 12-track album entitled Council Sport, the first full track since Negative Space in 2016. So I guess we should probably maybe talk about that album, maybe where you recorded it.
Take it back a step, actually. We recorded the single Mr. Slice in the studio in Nelson called Secret Handshake, run by an adopted Californian man called Trevor Montgomery, who had done a number of things on the west coast of California, like the Bay Area. He was in bands like Tarantel and I can't remember the other one. You probably remember.
It's in a band called The Drift.
What kind of style is that?
I don't know. Hard to explain. A lot of reverb and drum machines and
like dreamy folk stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So the dude, he moved to Nelson like through family. I think it was late or early 2019, like literally just before the world went to crap. And he had like a container load of all analog gear. He needed to set it up somewhere, and he set it up in the old Masonic Temple in Nelson, which is big, beautiful old building, massive, echoey rooms, and then a couple of really small, tight rooms that were great for doing drums and stuff. And yeah, Matt got talking to him, and we did Mr. Slice as a bit of a test, see how it goes, and it came out sounding pretty rad. So when it came to, okay, we've got an album's worth of stuff, what do we do? The only option in our mind was to continue on with Trev. And we recorded it over a number of sort of Sunday sessions, trying to smash out a couple of songs a day. And it worked, really. Trev did all the mixing as well. He's a bit of a mad genius.
You said that you recorded it over a bunch of Sundays, basically. So I'm a drummer as well, Matt. I tend to track all of the drums at once because like changing the mics can sort of change the sound. But I think that you guys are more like a band that sort of plays live and records live. Is that the way you did it, or did you do all the drums at once and then overlaid the vocals and guitars?
We've definitely done it both ways before. This actually was the first time, starting with Trev, that we wanted to put the drums down first.
Okay.
So yeah, starting with drums, and I could kind of lay it down and go and listen in the booth and be like, okay, yeah, I'm happy with that one. Let's kind of, and just build it up like that. Usually I play with Greggy playing along with me, just like rhythm, guitar, and vocals to sort of like try to keep the energy nice and high.
Okay, cool. I did notice that the previously released tracks, Mr. Slice, Nothing Ever Happens, and I think it was Height of Fashion, were actually previously released as sort of singles or as part of smaller releases over the past few years. So what did you feel like you wanted to re-include them?
When we've been playing live over the last sort of 6 months to a year, sort of road testing this stuff, those were the three that sat nicely with the newer material. Like they were the older songs that sort of went, okay, yeah, they're sort of the same mold.
Right.
And then when we were going to record them, we had this thought that Nothing Ever Happens. We always played it faster, always. And we're like, let's try and do that. Let's try and capture that. And we did. And like the previous release of Nothing Ever Happens is markedly slower to the one that you get. And I think it's got way more bounce, a bit more energy to it. Height of Fashion, we basically wanted to ask what would it sound like if we recorded it as Secret Handshake as opposed to where we recorded it previously. And we think it came out pretty fucking gnarly, exactly how we wanted it, to be honest. We wanted it to be a little bit nastier too. The previous version was good, don't get me wrong. I just think we wanted to see how far we could push it this time.
It's such a ridiculous kind of song. For us, one phrase getting shouted over a drum beat which never changes.
We wrote it in about 2 minutes flat.
There have been times where we've tried to write a song like that again, and I don't think we can do it ever again.
This interview will probably drop sort of end of May. I believe you've got a single coming out, or like like a teaser, if you like.
May the 6th, or by the time you're watching this, you'll have heard it. There's a single called Redwood Street Massive. It's a totally ridiculous title. It sort of started, I actually didn't know, I couldn't remember this until Matt said earlier, but the title came from Jim dicking around, and we started calling him the Stratford Street Massive, because he lives on a street called Stratford. And then the next practice I walked back in with a song called Redwood Street Massive. We gave it a hoon and refined it a bit, and that's what you're going to hear.
Redwood Street is a big street in Blenheim. There are one of the big ones.
Yeah, one of the 5.
Yeah.
And then in June, we'll have a single called Uh-Oh coming out. And then in July, we have another one called How Lovely coming out, ahead of the album coming out on August the 19th.
Okay.
How Lovely is Jim taking the spotlight.
Why is that?
Jim has these like moments of genius where he'll just write something randomly at home and then just send it through and go, what do you boys think of this? And this was one of them. He just started farting around on some software and came up with this bass groove and vocals over an electronic drum beat and sent it to Matt and I, and just goes, oh, I want to use this as a demo. And we were like, fuck that, that's the finished thing. And he fought really hard to try and get guitar in there. And it honestly, it's brilliant. It's just, you couldn't get more Jim. It's like if Park Life by Blur came out nowadays, but with an 80s flying nun savant singing it. That's about as best as I can describe it. It's a right laugh.
The album release will be followed by a New Zealand tour, you mentioned. Of course, it's going to be a little bit of a ways off, and nothing's really set in concrete with the COVID stuff and all that bullshit. But you may have a sort of a rough idea penciled down. You want to tell me about that?
Sort of the back end of August and September. Try and play as many places as possible. We've been very fortunate to play sort of Whammy Bar and those places up north, Yacht Club in Raglan and Tauranga, Palmy. We haven't really played Wellington much, but we're going to make the effort to.
Mhm.
And then as many other places we can around the South Island, Christchurch, Dunners. We've been to Dunners once. It was awesome. We want to go there again.
Yeah.
And good old Blenheim as well. Play to our mums and dads. Yeah, and that'd be about it probably in Blenheim. People probably like us everywhere but Blenheim.
I was going to ask you about the Blenheim scene. I mean, Matt and I talked a little bit about it before we started recording, but I guess most people would be a little bit intrigued what Blenheim's like and what's it like as a musician to live there.
In terms of like original bands around here or original artists around here, I'm not aware of too many. Could probably count on one hand the amount, to be honest. Heap of cover bands, if that floats your boat.
Right.
But in terms of like the live scene and venues and stuff, this guy is the one to talk to, so I'm going to shut up.
Matt?
Yeah, well, I guess we opened this venue kind of 3 or 4 years ago and got a bunch of bands. The idea was that we're really close to Picton, which is where the ferry runs to Wellington, and heaps of bands kind of get that ferry and play Wellington and then come across, drive down to Christchurch or vice versa. And we kind of wanted to hijack some of those acts as they were coming through and managed to do so pretty successfully, which was a little bit of a surprise. And I think because there's not a lot feeding like people who want to see original music in this town, a lot of people came to shows. So the shows were really filled up, and that means that bands wanted to come and play because shows went well. And so quite quickly, I think we got something going pretty good. It was great for Pig Scout to play at the plant too, and I think we got a bit of a local following from playing at the plant, and the band probably helped the venue as well.
It helped us hone our live chops too with the recording. When we went into the studio, we were still ready to go. We all knew our parts almost flawlessly, and we'd just bang out tunes. Like there were some days we'd do 4 songs, and then we'd go back and refine them another time. So that playing live and having access to play live through the plant really helped.
So is there anything else you'd like to add to the end of the interview?
Again, the album out August 19th as singles prior to it. It'll be out on vinyl as well. The label from Christchurch, Melted Ice Cream, they've been brilliant in helping us bring this to life, I guess. So big shout out to Brian down in Christchurch. Thank you, brother. Yeah, it's a bit of a dream to put something out on vinyl, if I'm honest. It's bloody awesome. Yeah, and thanks to Jim for letting us have the spotlight for once, even though I am the singer. It's quite nice. Matt?
Yeah, Matt, you want to say anything?
I just am actually pretty stoked to have the vinyl coming out on Melted Ice Cream because I'm a long-term fan of so much of the music that they've put out.
Is that kind of like an indie label or something, is it?
Yeah, Christchurch indie label, who were putting out amazing stuff that nobody would have heard if they weren't probably, and probably just music files that would have gotten passed around Christchurch and died a death. And so yeah, they've been flying the flag for good shit for a long time, and it just feels really good to be, in good company.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks very much for sharing your evening with me, and all the best with the single releases, the vinyl release, and the pending tour. Thanks very much, man.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for making the effort for us. Appreciate it.
And thanks for watching.